Hello guys, I'm Super-On, welcome back to the channel, and this week in the G unit we have my 2004 C5 RS6, because barely a few days after I said this, and if you do want to see more RS6 content, let me know. I'll do my best to break something and then we can film it and fix it all together. I went through the McDonald's drive-thru for my tea and the window made all sorts of noises and crunching as it was going down and then back up, but I went home, carried on, but then the next night when I went for McDonald's for tea again, it went down and donk! The cable snapped and the window was stuck down. So it just goes to show McDonald's isn't great for your health, but it's also not great for your RS6. So in this episode, I'm going to take you through how to remove the door card and replace the window regulator. So let's check it out. So first off, we need to get the door cards off. And as I've said before, we can thank Audi for making the easiest door cards to ever come off. All that holds them on is two little screws on each end. Got one little one here. And one little one here. And now the door card does just lift off, but it is easier at this point to pop this out and unplug it while it's still secure on the car. So there's a secret little hole under here that you just put a screwdriver in at an angle, pop it out, and then unplug it now. That just makes it a little bit easier to get this off now while the door card's still on. So now it's just a case of removing the door card. So there's a couple of little things in here we still need to disconnect. We've got the interior handle, the cable connected to this, and then all the plugs for the electronics which are at the back here. Let's get this one off, it's easy enough. Just unhook that, and then there's a few plugs down here we just need to unplug. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we can pull out the window plug that we disconnected. And we are off. And with the door card all off, we can see exactly where it's broken. Here's the remains of one end of the cable, and the other end has kind of wrapped itself up here. But you don't worry about putting new wires or anything in. They actually come as a complete unit, so we need to get that out next. Here you can see the piece of wood I put in, robbed from my dad's kindling pile, and that just holds the window up, because when the cables snap, the window falls down and there's nothing holding it up. So I've put this piece of genuine AUDI wood in there just to hold the window up until the new piece came. So the next set is to get this whole cassette out. It comes out as one piece and then we can take the regulator out. So first off, we just need to disconnect these wiring looms with these little clips. Disconnect the motor, little tab on both sides. And disconnect the mirror. So now the loom's out the way, this whole cassette can come out as one. So there's just a few bolts around the outside. So now this whole cassette comes out with the door frame, so the whole top of the door actually comes off separate. So there's a lot of adjustment in these 4 bolts. So a good tip is just to draw around them. So when you go to put it all back together, you don't have to spend a lot of time worrying about adjusting the door frame to fit the body of the car. You'll just put it right back where you took it off. So draw around them all. And then you'll know exactly where they've got to go. And then it's 4 T45 Torx. Undo them. When you're taking the bottom ones out, try and keep hold of your wedge, and before it moves, mark it with your pen as well, because this is how the door adjusts in and out on the top frame. So we'll take this wedge out, you can see, and move there. So now we know ours was right at the top, because whether this wedge is up or down, that controls how much the door moves in and out at the top for adjustment. And the same for this one. Just mark the wedge before it comes out. You can see this one was in the middle. So that's half the wedge used. So when they go back in, we know the frame's going to be in exactly the same place. So you can see there they have huge holes with lots of adjustment, but as we've drawn around it, we can see where they've got to go when it goes back together. Same with here. We've got our circle, so we can put it back in exactly the same place. And we've just got this tiny little screw for the rear rubber. And then last of all, at the front here, we've just got to disconnect this rubber. It's got little pegs that go in those holes, and we're ready to go. And now it should come out as one big piece, like so. And then we're left with a completely empty door, no window or door frame. And we've got all the mechanism, including the whole top of the door frame, out as one. So first things first, while it's still secure, it's easier to get the motor out now. So we'll undo these little torques. Just 3 T30s holding the motor on. And that should wiggle off. Just in its little locating pins. One motor, and then we need to flip it over. So as the cable snapped, the window can move up and down on its own, which is why I had that little piece of wood from the bottom of the door onto there, just to make sure that the window didn't fall down when it was raining and let it in. So now we can slide this down to the bottom, disconnect these 2 T25 torques. These flaps come off, and then the window should be able to wiggle out. There's your glass out, put that somewhere safe. And here's my AUDI specialist piece of wood that I use to hold the window up, just in case anyone else needs a quick fix. It's about 60 centimeters long. I had this piece of wood holding the window up, then I had to wedge those little bits underneath. So I'd say a 60 centimeter piece of wood will be pretty much spot on. And now the regulator is held in with 4 rivets, so they need to be drilled out. And then one little 10mm here, and that should, oh, a little tab there, lift out. And here's the replacement regulator. I've used this make before. They're not a lot of money off eBay. I think this one was £18, and they come out complete. They've got some bolts and even come with some basic instructions on how to fit it. So you can see, as we've done, took the whole cassette out, tells you where to take it out and then slide it all back in. So let's double check this one is the same as our broken one. They all match up. So let's get this new one all fitted. And then put the new one in. It needs to be re-riveted back on. I think the official size of these is 4.8mm by 20mm. Get them lined up. 2, 3, 4. Make sure that's under there. Make sure that one's lined up. And then one. 3, 4. All on and secure. And then put this little 10mm back in. Now, before you put the motor in, you want to put these right down at the bottom to get the glass in. Like that, because once the motor's in, these cables lock up. Then time to put the glass back in. Just a case of, hold on, I can't let it go back in like that. Even though you never see that bit, I'm going to know it's there now. That's better. And then slide this back in the rubber. Like that. Line it up with your holes. 1, 2. Slide that up. Fold your little doors back over. Like that. And these ones screw back in. And the T20 Torx to do these up. Just snug, because they're only going into plastic. And this should slide all the way up. Like so. And then flip it back over. Being careful of your mirror this way round. And pop the motor back in, slot it in here. It should all locate in. On the old regulator, it had these threaded bolts that went through and screwed in, but this one hasn't got the threads built in, I guess just to make it a bit cheaper. So it comes with these nuts and bolts. 2, 3, then you just put the nuts on the back. Now we're ready for the whole cassette to go back into the door. And we're back in. So we'll put the bolts back in on our marks that we made before, and it should be in the right place. And then plug all the looms back in. This one was for the mirror up the top. Tucks in there, and then these clips just go back how they were. Make sure it's all routed nicely. And this one up to the lock. So that's all in. Now plug the rubbers back in. This one's sitting there. And this one on the end was a tiny little Phillips screw. And then even though we have put all the shims back in their correct places, lined all our lines up and all our circles and the lines in the shims, we'll just double check. Still fits nice all around the edges. All the rubbers are nice and snug in their aperture. So we can carry on. And now the door card can go back on. So at the front, we've got all these plugs for the speaker, the lock buttons, other bits and pieces. And they're all different, so they can only go in one way to their correct partner. Then they've got some little clips that they clip into just to keep them tidy. And then we need to poke the window buttons wire back through. Put the grommet back in. Then last of all is the wire for the handle. Clips in. And then you just need to make sure that your lock pin is in the right place. And as long as all the pegs are in, that is on. Just got our 2 little screws, 1 on each end. 1, 2, and plug the electric window switch back in. And that just clips in like that. And then for the first run, you just need to go all the way down manually to the bottom, all the way up. And that saves your heights, and it should go all the way down. Perfect. All the way up. So I think we can call that an absolute success. The window goes up and down now, and it still fits perfectly in the car, just as it did before. As you can see, it's not too bad a job to do. It's quite daunting taking the whole cartridge out, because you're basically just leaving the outer skin. Everything else comes out. But as it's designed to all come out as one, it's not too bad to do. As long as you make sure you mark up the wedges and mark up where your bolts go, everything can go back together exactly as it came off. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully it'll be useful for people in the future if they've got their RS6 and the window regulator goes. But this should be the same procedure for everything in the C5 A6 range as well. And I wasn't planning on doing any RS6 videos, but as it broke, it seemed a good opportunity to film it for you guys. So give it a like. If you've got any questions about how I did anything, put them down in the comments below and I'll get straight back to you. But make sure you subscribe, because if anything else breaks, I'll be sure to film that as well. But until next time, make sure you have fun.